When I tell you that this episode 9 and the season finale, yeah, I just have to, it gave me that, yeah. We'll discuss it more after this. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we are about to do a television series review. We're getting ready to review Reasonable Doubt season 3, episode 9, entitled "The Evils," and episode 10, On to the Next, which is the season finale. So, hey, Ernest, how you doing? Listen, so the way I'm going to break this up, I am going to break this up in sections so it makes a little better sense, because it was a lot going on in these two episodes. uh I will tell you. All right, so let's go ahead and break this up. I've got them in four sections, so let's talk about the case. So here we are, and I'm going to be merging both of the episodes together. So there's going to be some things that I may not speak about. That's because it's two whole episodes, and I'm trying to get all of this out. Start with the case. So as we see the cases going on, we see that Jax and Bill are having some differences of opinion. Jax wants to put Ozzie on the stand. Bill doesn't think that Ozzie needs to go on the stand. He doesn't feel like he's ready. Him and Jax are going back and forth, and you know that he keeps talking to the partners about Jax and her performance and all of this other stuff. So he's like, I don't think he needs to. He goes and he reports it to the partners, and they're just like, well, you need to figure out what's best for you, because this merger is going on and all of the other stuff. But I'll definitely get into that when we talk about the firm. So they prep Ozzie. Ozzie gets on the stand, and I will say Ozzie got on the stand and he saved his own skin because of the fact, you remember how I told you all earlier that I felt like his parents, they coddled him like a child, and he was like a man child. Well, that was so his saving grace. Them coddling him and not uh allowing him to do stuff, it didn't make sense, and you could see it in the prosecution's face, because when Ozzie got on the stand, he was like, uh he know it wasn't true. He believed it wasn't true at the time. He says because he wouldn't have known how to get to the cabin. He would have had to give him directions. He didn't know how to get to his own cabin. He didn't shoot the gun. They had to take a class, but he took the class. He never picked up the gun after that. This man didn't go to the grocery store. He didn't buy his own clothes. He didn't even order anything online. His sister did everything for him. I mean, he had his own place, but I am quite sure. I am fine today. How are you? He had his own place, but I'm quite sure he didn't clean it. He didn't do anything. His only job was to act. He was the income for the family. And I don't know why his name escapes me. No, I got it now. And this reminded me, you know who this when I looked at Ozzie and how he was acting and all this other stuff, it was always bringing into mind Gary Coleman. Every time it brought into mind Gary Coleman, how his family, his only job as a actor was to act. And that was good as long as he was as young as he was. And he still looked young, even though he was older. When you saw him do those little detective things and stuff like that, he was damn near an adult. And because of his his disease and his inability to get any taller or to grow, he wasn't going to really have those real adult roles, because at that particular time, if we're talking about Gary Coleman back in the 80s and the 90s, and I've said this before, uh, he was as useful as he was until he wasn't, because people were not as tolerant as they are today of Gary Coleman, his talent, but he couldn't move outside of that child or teen preteen role, even though he was an adult. And even when he did move into adult roles, it didn't seem believable, because we only saw him this way. He didn't have a really good as these younger people have pretty much figured it out, not the best, but how to transition into the adult roles, even if they've had any kind of illnesses or diseases. They still learn how to transition into adult roles, and they were pretty much the prototype at that point. um this with this case, this is what Ozzie reminded me of. He just reminded me that he just didn't have any coping skills, and he didn't have anybody that was around him that really had his best interest at heart. They wanted him to just be ready. And so, if him having to pop 2 and 3 Adderalls was needed for him to be ready, then that's what his mama did, because they needed him to be ready, because he was the one making them rich. So he gets on the stand, and I think his testimony was his saving grace. The jury deliberated, and they found him not guilty. And then we started finding stuff out. Because again, you remember I told you I thought Rosie had something to do with it, because of the way that she tried to shut Alex up. But we're seeing now, and prior to Rosie, I thought Kristen did it. Now I'm gonna tell you real quick. I thought, I didn't think Sal didn't come to my mind, but baby, baby, let's talk about that. So the case is over. Uh, Ozzie is celebrating, and he's celebrating with his friends and stuff like that. Jackson invites him over. You can come over to eat. And he was like, okay. But he says, I'm going to be playing with my friends. And when he gets around hanging with his friends, he's really not. The scene now doesn't is now, for the lack of better words, beneath him. The scene is now, he's like, nah, I don't really want to do this. This is not, I really have more fun when I'm hanging around with Jax and her family. So that's what he eventually does. He goes to Jax's home. He hangs with her family. She sits down and she talks to him and everything like that, telling him, he can't, he's California clean. He's not really clean. He really needs to go to rehab. She tells him that she has uh called the rehab center, then they're going to come pick him up from there. And he's really upset, but she tells him, you need to be clean. You need to move into your next step. You just can't cope. You're not going to be able to cope. People are going to be talking to you about this case. People are going to be doing all of these different things. Ozzie, you need to center yourself. You need to cope. Now, remind you, when he left the party, his friend had given him some mood enhancers. And so he had those mood enhancers in his pocket. And so he was really freaked out about going to rehab. And I don't think that he was intentionally trying to OD, but we have seen him do it so much. I just think his body was never, after that time when Kirsten gave him that Narcam. See, he didn't have the Narcam there. No one had the Narcan for him. So if Kristen was there, she would have had the Narcan for him. But nobody had it. And I don't think his body was able to recover from it. And unfortunately, he passed away. And Jax is having, she's feeling quite bad, because she's like, I tried to get him help, tried to do what his folks needed to do, and it didn't work out. And baby, they had his funeral, and you see his whole family, because honey, they money, they hopes and they dreams is in that casket, honey. Everything they are, who they are, they're not going to be really making too much money behind the fact that Ozzie is no longer here. And you can tell that in the casket. You could tell that the way they would look. Baby, they panned over to the throngs of fans, and you see Monica over there just seething. She just breathing heavy, and she's looking at Jax, and she is pissed off. Remember that. So Excuse me. So Jax is talking with Bill. Bill come, they're at the funeral. Bill comes to her again. Bill just does not know how to read the room, and he's telling her stuff, and she's like, she doesn't want to hear it. Her son comes up, and she tells her son, hey, make sure. Jax tells her son, if anything is bothering you, if you feel like things are getting come talk to me, come talk to your dad, come talk to us. Don't rely on the drugs and everything. And so he makes that promise to his mom, and he walks off. uh Jax's husband comes around, and he sees that she's distraught. And Lewis comes around, he sees that she's distraught, and he does what he needs to do to try to assist her. Then Rosie shows up, and she wants to know why he went to her house instead of coming over to her. She said, because I invited him to dinner. Rosie said, well, we invited him home. And she says, well, and Jax just basically tells her, we failed him. Everybody failed him. She says, I don't believe he meant to unalive himself, but she says, I do believe that we failed him. And somebody from a studio wanted to talk to the mother, and that was pretty much the end of that. So then we see Kristen, and she's over there drowning her sorrows in alcohol. Jax goes over to talk to her, and Jax suddenly realizes that Kristen didn't do it. She knows who did it, and she's covering for them because she made a little statement, something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, it was my job to take care of Ozzie. So then we find out what actually happened. So let's get into what happened to Wendy. Kristen goes to her dad, and he's in his little I guess his little shrine of his basketball glory days, and he's sitting in there and he's drinking, and she's asking him about what happened. They need to talk about what happened that night because Ozzie is gone. He needs to tell the truth because everybody's going to be thinking that Ozzie is a killer. And then we get the flashbacks to what actually happened. And here we go. We're going to talk about what actually happened. So Ozzie and Wendy argue. Wendy doesn't know exactly what he's talking about in regards to this film that he was supposed to have been doing. And so she leaves his house and she goes over to the Edwards home. She goes to the Edwards home and she comes into contact with Sal. And she's telling Sal, you're a liar, da 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 this. And Sal is because Sal doesn't know at that point that there is a video. He doesn't know nothing about no video. He just knows that she's coming in and she's telling him that he's a liar. There's something else that she was saying that she's going to uncover with them. And he told her, look, how much money does it take to get rid of you? She says he's not going to be able to get rid of you. And she goes over, I guess, to try to hit her, and he smacks her. And when he smacks her, she hits the table. Her head hits the table. Then she hits the ground. Christian comes out. She says, Dad, what's happening? He says, pick her up. Let's take her away. He says, grab her feet. They take her to the cabin. Now, I can't remember what made Ozzie ask Alex to take him to the cabin or not. I'm really not sure how that happened because they were out there. They was taking drugs and everything like that. So Sal and Kristen had Wendy tied up. So when Ozzie was having those flashbacks about him seeing Wendy tied up, he actually saw her tied up. He was trying to trying to untie her and do everything like that. Tell me, what's wrong? Why are you here? Why are you tied up? Christian is like, no, it's okay. You don't need to be here. She was trying to stop him. He goes into the cabin. He sees her. He tries to take the bandages and everything off. And then he feels on her head. And that's where he has the blood. And that's where he takes his hand and he rubs it across his sweatshirt. So that's how he got the blood on his sweatshirt. He ends up passing out because, again, he's taking his body is not able to handle the drugs that he's taking. He takes the drugs and he actually goes into another fit. And Kristen is there with the Narcan. She gives him the Narcan. He comes back. They take him. Meanwhile, while he had the Narcan, Wendy leaves. She gets away. Kristen calls for her dad. Her dad picks up the gun and goes out the front porch and just starts shooting at her. And he hits her in her elbow. And she's running, but she's bleeding, and she's running. She's got a head wound and she's bleeding. He catches up to her, and when he catches up to her, she's still telling him, I'm gonna tell him the truth. You can't get between me and Ozzie and all of this other stuff. And then he inevitably just holds his hand over her mouth, and he basically suffocates her, and she dies. Then he tries to cover up with the thing. He comes back and he says, "Oh well, she didn't make it." So they drive her car, or they drive. I think they drive her car somewhere, and Kirsten throws her bag out of the window. So that is how Wendy met her demise. Kirsten had her phone that was operating, and they were recording the information that was being said. Sal was arrested. Now I was unclear why they didn't arrest old Rosie, because Rosie was the one that had Alex beat up. Why didn't they get Rosie? But and it ends up that the person that came to Rosie to talk about that producer, I guess she was supposed to give back. They were going to do a documentary on Ozzie and his time on his show. And so that's how it ended with that. And that's how it ended with the case. So I still think that they could have done that with Ozzie being here. But Ozzie's with Wendy now, child, both of them. Let's talk about the firm. So, remember, as I told you that Jack saw Bill talking to the partners, and he had to basically come clean that he had been talking, and he's been trying to make partner, and he has been basically advising them, and she kind of knew what was going on. And again, like I told you all earlier, I know that this was just to move the plot and have some kind of tension between the firm. But if she was a partner and it was three of them, and her name is on the station head, the letterhead, and you mean to tell me they are making deals and she knows nothing about it? I just find that to be odd on that level, quite odd on that level. But that's just, don't let me, don't get me started. I know exactly what that is, but I just found that odd. But anyway, to make the longest story short, for the firm, Jax finds out through the conversation, because the partners wanted Bill to do the closing argument. Jax was like, no, she does the closing argument, and again, they win the case. Everybody is celebrating the win of the case, and I meant to, and the, I'm breaking this up, but I also need you to know that during this time, Daniel finds out some information about Kristen, because he goes to the cabin, and Kristen was at the cabin, and she initially told him the story, but without her dad, and he believes that she was hiding something. So that information was found out after they won the case. So that's how all of that kicked off, because Daniel found that information out. Basically, the firm is like, they're getting ready to merge it. Like I said, they didn't tell Jackson they were getting ready to merge her. Everybody was celebrating. She was talking about some things. She was like, well, how is it that you all are doing all this stuff and not telling me? And they were like, well, you're a managing partner, you're doing cases and stuff like that, so we had to do what we needed to do, and your job is secure. And also, they made Bill a partner, so they're going into this merger with Bill being a partner, and Jax didn't have any say. So she's like, wait a minute. Any other time anybody was doing the partner, you needed all the partners. And so basically she figured out, y'all, I make y'all money. Y'all know I make y'all money. Everybody in here with these billable hours, I do that. I know my worth. I know what I do. And the realization hit her. I can still do all of this and have less the headaches. So she started her own firm, in which I thought she was going to do. I think that whole plot case scenario was to set up that in the next season, and it has been renewed for season 4, to set her up working her own cases, being her own person. She has the cachet, she has all the cases in front of her. People know that she wins cases. So I think it was basically set up for her to do that. And that, I think that that's what happened. And I think that that's what needed to happen. Because again, her working at that firm, uh, forgot about Corey. Corey came back with his fiance, and he was telling Jax that they had approached him. They were going to buy her out. And she was like, "Well, I'm an equity partner." And they were like, "They're going to buy you out." They were going to do that. And they were going to make him a junior partner. They were willing to buy her out, someone who was making them loads of money, just to get him. And they were saying that they thought that, she was a little too messy. Now, let's be clear. Now, I'm not on the side of the firm at all, but Jackson, we know she's messy. Her dating that, I think with that, her first season dating Damon, did not showcase her best decision making skills. And it ended up with her being kidnapped and almost deleted from the timeline. So I think that they've never forgotten that. And so I think that she had that hanging over her head, even though, even after all of that happened, she still was making the money. She still was doing the billable hours. She still had everything. And she still was winning her cases, or settling the cases where they've got some money. Because it was so interesting how you had the other people with probably, let's say 100 billable hours is the threshold that they want everybody to do. She was doing 1,000, and they were acting like it wasn't enough. Just a mess. Just a mess. So Jax is going to start her own firm, which is good for Jax. Let's talk about the family. Now she talked to her dad, because Chelsea came to her, and Chelsea's like, it's nobody but me. I don't have a sister. I don't have a sibling. It's me and you, and I got these 3 kids, and I want to get to know you. Your father came back. He was part of the scam. He scammed to try to get money from you. I knew about it. I knew that I was going to profit off of it, but I just realized that, he comes back when he wants to, do something. She was saying that he was there, uh in and out of her life. And then when her mom, he wasn't as present. And then when her mom died, then it was just her, and he wasn't as present as he needed to have been. So she goes to her dad. She explains that she's already talked to Chelsea. Now, I will tell you, I had checked out on that conversation. So I'm not sure if she made him leave, or if she put him on notice on thin ice. I wasn't sure, because it didn't, his expressions didn't give me like it was something huge. So we'll find that out later on. Hold on. Sorry about that. Hate to have a little mic problems. I don't want it to be crunchy on y'all. So let's get to the other stuff. Let, let's get to Lewis. Let's get to the stuff that Lewis was talking about. You remember Lewis had his little person that he hired that was in there just making excuses and not doing a damn thing. Come to find out that he really wasn't doing a damn thing. He really wasn't. I hear it crackling. I'm going to put it right there. See if that works a little bit better, if it's not so close to me. Because every now and then it seems like it's crackling. But Lewis, the employee that has been just basically pulling on Lewis's heartstrings and telling him all kinds of stuff, Lewis set him up. Lewis said, "Hey, I want you to open this file, figure out the stuff like that, and then get back to me." So he takes the file. He never opens the file. He's just in there sitting in the office playing solitaire, twiddling his thumb. He's not doing anything that he's supposed to do. He's barely just getting by. And he's thinking that, they can't fire him, because he thinks that if they do, it's going to be this lawsuit. But Lewis has been keeping notes. He's like, "You're not even doing your job." And he asked him to open the file. And he's like, he can't find it. He says, "No, because if you had opened the file, before, you would have known that there was nothing in that file. And oh, the girl, his secretary, Lewis's secretary, came in and said he's always on Tinder. That's what he left. So then when he realizes that this is going to be the end, he tries to con Lewis like, hey, black man, we'll be able to do something. He was like, no. He says, because we're here to do a job and you're here to do a job. And just because you found some kind of loophole to keep you from doing your job doesn't mean that you're going to mess things up for me. And he says, you're gone. And he says, the difference is I've got so much evidence behind why you're about to be fired. You need to go on about your business. You getting out of here. And he had him escorted out of the building. So that was the end of that. I did talk about Chelsea. So then let's get to Jax, because Jax decides that she's going to go into her own little firm. She does her firm. She rents out an office space and everything like that. She has everything together. They're going in for their first day, Lewis and Daniel, because I guess Daniel, since he's her investigator, he's followed her. I don't know if her secretary, her paralegal followed her out. Probably or probably not. Simply because, she's got it good over there at the firm. And, she can work with Bill. But anyway, child, they're in there getting things together. They think they finna get their first client, girl. It is Monica with her thing, breathing heavy, with her skull cap on and in all black, breathing heavy, and then she shoots. And the thing goes off. So we won't know until we will not know until the next season what happened. One thing I tell you about Jax, everybody's shooting at her. Everybody. Everybody's shooting at Jax. So that was those 2 episodes. That was the end. And so we've got to do our final analysis. And baby, it wasn't what I thought. It was not what I thought. Hold on just a second. Let me pull these things up for you all. Hold on. I got to open. And we will go over all this. I think some more questions were answered for us. Well, we're going to pull that document up. And then once we do that, that is going to be the end of season 3 for us. How have you all liked it? Like I said, I think the pacing towards the end got real slow. I think it got really, really slow. It just seemed like everything was predictable until it wasn't. So let's do this. But there were surprises for me. I ain't gonna hold you. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. So who did Jax discover on the floor? And you remember I told you I thought it was Autumn. I thought she was going to have a miscarriage. I was wrong. I thought it was her Mama Lou because she was going through chemo treatment. Nope. I even thought it was Eddie because I thought he probably would have relapsed. Nope. I thought that Bill was going to snap and it was going to be a murder-suicide between him and his wife. Nope. I thought that Kristen had pruned Daniel from the timeline and he was who she found on the ground. Nope. Then, last episode, episode 8, after all that stuff that Sally was going through with her husband, I thought that it was going to be her pruned from the timeline. Nope. Who was it? It was Ozzie. But as I see Sally, just to let you know that Bill and his wife will continue to go through the divorce, and Sally is still messing with Bill. She's just telling Bill, we just, I need you to not be so wound up or anything like that. Let's just have fun. So she's still dating Bill. So who Jax found on the floor, baby? It was actually who? Alex. Oh, Alex. And again, because he had taken those mood enhancers that his friend at that party had given to him, which was a shame. Which was a shame. So let's get into this because we've got questions that we had pulled up and we were answering. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Here we go. Going through the same thing. Let's see. I don't need to be this big. Yeah, let's go through here. Hey, Jay. So who was Jax crying over, y'all? It was Ozzie. It was Ozzie. Ozzie was on the ground. Ozzie had taken all of the impending drugs, and now he has been pruned from the timeline. What's Corey Smith's role in his thing, and why does Ozzie call him instead of Jax? We never really figured that out. But Corey just told no role. He didn't have any really role in the case. But we did find out that he was engaged, and he was engaged to be. He's getting engaged to be married. Why does Dr. Gardner seem suspicious? They never did come up and say that, but it's been my opinion that I think that he was who was giving Christian the Narcan. And I'm gonna stick with that. Where did Kristen get the Narcan? I still think she got it from Dr. Gardner. Who tied up Wendy and shot her in the elbow? Was the killer intentionally trying to kill Wendy? That's yes, yes, and yes. It was Kristen and Sal. Sal was the one that ended up killing Wendy. And that's why when she was on the stand, she was trying so hard not to try to tell the truth. She was trying to really meter her answers, and she was trying so hard not to tell the truth. Who has Wendy's phone? They never did answer that. Who had her phone? We don't know. Did anyone knew Wendy was? How did anyone know that she was at the cabin? That is because they took her to the cabin. Ozzie just showed up with his friend Alex. And that's why Alex was about to see, because he knew all the stuff that happened. He knew what all the bodies was buried. Kristen, because she was the only one that had access to it. Well, no, when they because the bloody shirt ended up in Ozzie's room because Kristen and Sal transported Ozzie back home, because you remember Alex left. And so they transported Alex back home. So I guess when they took Alex and put him in the bed, she took off that shirt and she left the shirt. She didn't have sense enough to wash it. And again, to cover up her involvement, all right. And lastly, why is Rosie having doubts about Ozzie? Is she manipulating? It's because I think she really believed that he did it. I think she knew that he went to the cabin. I really do think that she believed that he did it. I don't know if she knew Kristen knew something. I think she was covering for her children, but I still don't believe her. I think she was manipulative. All right. So we've answered all of our questions. Let me go back up here and answer these. Nothing in the episode told us that. What do y'all think? We had a lot of questions. And like I said, we all but maybe two were not answered. But we had a lot of questions that we had in regards to this series of cases. I think as far as the questions that we had, kind of rivals the first season. And we did get some conclusions. In the first season, the guy actually did it, and he was trying to cover up like he didn't do it, but he actually did. He actually did the murders, and Jax found that out. But again, Jax had all that other stuff going on with her that she couldn't really, it was just too much stuff going on with her. All right, people. That's it. That is season 3 of Reasonable Doubt, the Ozzie Edwards case. And that case has been concluded. That case is over. We have answered all of our questions. So if you all got some comments, got some questions, make sure y'all put them down in the comment section. Y'all, we are here once again. And just to go forward, in January, I am separating my channel. I'm going to have 2 channels. I've got this channel, which is Pam Entertainment TV. And then I have Pam Entertainment TV Reacts. It's going to be down in the description bar. Please subscribe to that channel, because that is going to be the channel where all my movies and television reviews are going to be placed. And what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to be reviewing... I'm going to be reviewing Bel Air. And I'm going to review Bel Air exclusively on that channel. So when I start reviewing Bel Air, it's going to be on that exclusive channel. I'll do probably the first episode on this channel, and then I will do the rest, simultaneously. I'll put that information on that channel. But going forward, I'm going to be doing my movie and television reviews on that channel. And this channel is going to be really working to like celebrity legal news and my pop culture chats and celebrity news, my weekly celebrity news. But my movie and television reviews and my reactions to different things is going to be over on that channel. And it will be full time on that channel starting in January. But what I'd like for you all to do is to go follow me on that channel. It's down in the description bar. It says I need about 50 people to follow me before I can go live on that channel. And so I know how many I have over here. So if 200 of you would go to that channel and subscribe to that channel, I'll be forever grateful. So that way I can definitely go live from that channel and talk about my movie and television reviews over on that channel. So yeah, do that for me. I really appreciate that. All right, people, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye. See you in Bel Air. Go subscribe to my other channel.